He asked me not to tell Tom and Samantha, so I didn't. And I've never told them. But I'm saying it now because this is too disturbing. And Meghan is such a slick operator. But I can tell you, this concern came from a royal and quite a senior royal as well. He confirmed to me, incidentally, that none of it is true. And if Meghan should ever make any claims to the contrary, I am happy to fly wherever it is at my own expense to a court of law to confirm that Thomas Markle confirmed to me that none of it was true. He was absolutely horrified, as any father would.
Lady Colin Campbell, you always said that Meghan Markle's eventual downfall in the eyes of the world would be connected to the treatment of her father, Thomas Markle. I know that she has long believed that her father is, quote, dead to her, because that's what her courtiers within the British royal family, when she was still a member, told me at the time of their estrangement. So what do you think is the truth, and what do you know is the truth about this letter that she has delivered to the hospital in Cebu in the Philippines? Because, of course, Lady C, we should also set up your involvement in this story. You were obviously responsible for the crowdfunder for Thomas Markle when he was unable to fund his medical bills because he was receiving zero support from the daughter who he raised almost single-handedly.
And also, Dan, may I point out, the daughter, who after she was earning very good money, allowed him to keep on paying for her education, didn't help, and ended up causing him to bankrupt himself. Let's remember that as well.
100%.
Well, what would you like me to address?
Okay, well, let's start with what we know at the moment, Lady C, because what Meghan Markle has done is try to suggest that the Daily Mail newspaper is in some way controlling Thomas Markle, in charge of Thomas Markle, because of this reporter called Caroline Graham, who has worked for the Mail on Sunday for some time. Now, there's a split between Thomas Markle's other two children, Samantha Markle and Thomas Markle Jr., about the role of this woman, Caroline Graham. And the suggestion from Meghan is that she has been acting unethically because she's by Thomas's side. But they're friends, aren't they? They're genuine friends.
Well, I actually have known Caroline Graham for decades. When she first started out, she came and interviewed me when I lived in the Cundy Street flats. I mean, that's how far back that goes. And she's actually a perfectly decent and honourable person. I have no discomfort about Caroline per se. I do have a lot of queries about the Mail itself, because my considered opinion is that they are making a great deal of money out of the Markle saga, and that Thomas Markle, who should be cut in far more adequately than he is being, has never been cut in to the extent he should have been. Now, Dan, you and I are professionals. We know what big stories go for. And Thomas Markle has never really charged anything for his time compared with what he could have. And I think the Mail is exploiting him. Having said that, I'd have, he has an absolute right to have a close friendship with Caroline, because the fact of the matter is his daughter Samantha is not available because she is disabled and she lives in Florida and she can't move around. Caroline is able to move around, and Caroline is able to give him attention. But Meghan is always happy to create problems and blame everybody else. I mean, wait for it. Her whole uh, fix is going to be, I can't see my father unless he grows back a new foot, unless he turns his hair black, because I don't feel safe. And this, she's gonna, if she furthers the notion that she is open to a reconciliation with him person to person, she's going to hedge it with so many preconditions that it's going to be impossible for it to be implemented. The woman is one of the lowest of the low, crass, ghastly, cheap, and vulgar operators it has ever been my displeasure to encounter in the whole of my life. She sinks grifting to new depths.
And Lady C, there have been so many lies, even over the past week, as she dealt with this situation as if it was some type of normal PR crisis, rather than her dealing with a life and death situation involving her father.
But it was for her a normal PR crisis. I mean, her father is dead to her. She
Yes.
said it repeatedly.
Yes, she has.
So her, it is a PR crisis. How the heck do I get out of this now that this horrid old man has spoilt my fun and prevented me from being the billionaires that I was slated to be, but for him, and believe me, he's going to be blamed for the failure of Was Never and with puking from Meghan, not the fact that her products are unspeakable, overpriced, and the content of her shows dreadful. So I think she sets about using whatever situation is in front of her to create the impression that she is somehow being taken advantage of as she takes advantage of people. That's my take on it. And I think she couldn't care less about her father. Listen, I suspect Meghan never did ever care about her father.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, remember, I wrote a book on narcissism. I'm one of the first people who wrote a book on narcissism that actually has been rated. And this was in whenever, 15, 20 years ago. And one of the things about narcissists, which is very difficult to comprehend when you are involved with a narcissist, because they can be very charming, they can be very manipulative, they can be very evocative, they can pretend love. They never love anybody. They never care for anybody except themselves. When they are because there are three phases to narcissism: adoration, denigration, discard. Well, the adoration phase is, I love you because of all that you're doing for me and with me. But if you stop, I don't love you. So that's the first phase. Then, when the adoration phase comes to its natural conclusion, comes denigration. You never were important. You're not really of significance, blah, blah, blah. Then comes discard. She's been through all three phases with Thomas Markle. She is setting up the situation, using the mail, using his relationship with Caroline Graham, misusing his relationship with Caroline Graham, as well as the relationship with the male, which, as I've already said, I have reservations about, but not for the reasons she'd have about them. And she is going to come up with some yarn which prevents her from seeing Thomas Markle unless it is under all the conditions that tick her box. And she's going to make damn sure that it becomes impossible for him to implement it. And this is not the first time she's done stuff like that, because she's done it before and she'll do it again.
Lady C, Maureen Callahan, who is the host of the Nerve podcast, but also a columnist for the New York Post, and she has spent a career examining characters like Meghan Markle, has put out into the public domain something that has been discussed privately amongst many for some time. And I want to get your take on it. She believes that there is a genuine threat that once Thomas Markle dies, and of course we hope that's many years in the future, but his health is suffering, we know that, and he's not totally out of the woods yet, that Meghan might concoct a story that her father was in some way abusive towards her, excusing her decision to become estranged from him while leaving him unable to respond from beyond the grave. Now, in a conversation with the journalist Rob Shooter of Shooter Scoop, they say that this is something that has been talked about for some time behind the scenes, and that's why they've put it into the public domain to try and protect Thomas and to suggest that Thomas gets his story straight before his death. Now, in fairness, Lady C, as far as I'm aware, Meghan has never suggested anything of the sort. Do you share those fears of Maureen Callahan?
Jan, I have to disagree with you. If you cast your mind back to 2020, when you covered the publication of my book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, if you cast your mind back to the last 3 or 4 pages, I reiterate an approach I had from a household name in this country on behalf of one of Harry's closest associates, let's put it that way, because I don't want to give away any identities. There's no doubt in my mind that this was a genuine approach. And I was told, and it's in my book, so none of this is new. This was published in, whenever the book was published in 2020. But the incident took place in January 2020, shortly after there was a broadcast on, I think it was ITV, of an interview with Thomas Markle. And of course, Harry and Meghan knew I was writing my book, and they'd been trying to feed me information that would be positive to them. And I was perfectly happy to include it if it stood up. But I was told by this person, and it's in the book, so it's irrefutable when it happened, that Meghan had told Harry that she could not, Harry had told, let me say exactly as it's written in the book. Harry had told this friend, who was the emissary, that the reason why Meghan could not ever reconcile with her father was that he used to interfere with her. The word used was interfere. And I exploded. And I promptly rang up my American publishers. And I then promptly rang up my English publishers. And the emissary to whom I was speaking hates foul language. And I tell you, I used every F and S that it was possible to use as I exploded, because I knew it wasn't true. You only need to look at that tape that Meghan did in whenever it was that she did her broadcast to in front of the United Nations, how wonderful her father was. And all the things she has said on the TIG about what a wonderful father her father was. To know that it was a lie, and it was a barefaced and brazen lie, which in my opinion was hoping to entrap me that I would write it as if it were the truth, and that Thomas Markle would then be investigated and possibly charged. But either way, his reputation would be destroyed irrefutably. So that goes back to 2020. Also, I got in touch with Thomas Markle I don't remember now if it was last year or year before. It might have been last year. I'm a bit hazy on time.
You're
But
doing so
I,
well, though.
thank you, thank you. But one of the royals phoned me, and this was a royal who had previously given me really excellent information, that because they were quite determined to see Meghan stopped in her tracks. And they had previously informed me that Florida has both inquisitorial and British law. So they have a combination of Code Napoleon, French law, and British law, which I didn't know. Very few people know it. So this royal would have gone to a great deal of trouble to discover that Samantha could subpoena Harry under Florida law in the lawsuit. And I phoned up Samantha and told her this. Then, sometime after, this royal phoned me again and said, you need to get in touch with Thomas Markle and you need to tell him that we are really concerned about what is going to happen should he die, because it is our considered opinion that his daughter is going to traduce his reputation with a load of false statements. And what he needs to do is he needs to, and there's some mechanism which I don't remember the words for, whereby you can give evidence in tape, on tape, in a legal situation, which can be used after your death in a court of law. And they said to me, this is what Thomas Markle needs to do. And you need to phone him and tell him this is what he needs to do. And I did. He asked me not to tell Tom and Samantha, so I didn't. And I've never told them. But I'm saying it now because this is too disturbing. And Meghan is such a slick operator. But I can tell you, this concern came from a royal and quite a senior royal as well. So, but I'm not going to say which royal it was. So, believe me, there are concerns behind the scenes and have been for some considerable length of time as to the mischief that Meghan can and most likely will, in their view, do should her father die.
Wow, that is astonishing and disturbing. Now, Lady C, you did mention within that speech that Meghan Markle gave. I just like to keep reminding people of these moments because it's on the public record. So just watch that key line in that speech.
We need more men like that, just as we need more men like my father, who championed my 11-year-old self to stand up for what is right.
Now, look, I know she's an actress, but that did actually feel like genuine love when she was talking about her father. You know, anytime she's speaking about her love for Prince Harry, you can tell it's performative. But actually, that's one of the moments when I've seen her on stage and I'm like, yeah, I believe she loves her dad. And then remember, you've also got the TIG post, you've got the Instagram post, which are loving and lengthy tributes to Thomas Markle. So if she does go down that path, Lady C, I think it's going to be difficult. Although I totally agree with you. Of course, Thomas Markle should try and protect himself.
But I don't think he has. I mean, the impression I got from him when we were speaking was that he was very appreciative of the concern, but I just got the impression that he wouldn't do anything because he is so totally discombobulated and disabled by the whole thing. Because you know better than most people how he has suffered. I mean, he is the living embodiment of King Lear. And we are seeing King Lear enacted for over a period of years on the world stage. And he is King Lear. But my impression was that he is so depressed, because I think he is depressed about the whole thing,
Yes, he is.
that he would actually not do anything. I think he said he would, and if he did, great. But even if he didn't do it, it's now out in the open that it was he was asked to do it, and he confirmed to me, incidentally, that none of it is true. And if Meghan should ever make any claims to the contrary, I am happy to fly wherever it is at my own expense to a court of law to confirm that Thomas Markle confirmed to me that none of it was true. He was absolutely horrified, as any father would be.
Absolutely fascinating insight, Lady C. And this is a story, of course, which we continue to track. But meanwhile, overnight, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have dived right in to a controversial news story that they know absolutely nothing about. This is a law that I'm very much opposed to, Lady C, in Australia, a social media ban for kids. And I know people say, oh, that's good. Of course, kids shouldn't be on social media. But that's actually not the point of this law, right? The point of this law is to start cracking down on free speech, start cracking down on social media, and start effectively regulating the internet. But look at this statement. I mean, it was a very long statement released. I mean, clearly not written by either Harry or Meghan. But they said, we celebrate Australia's leadership for seeing and acting on how these technology companies are negatively impacting young people with little to no recourse or accountability, and feeble efforts from the companies to stem the flow of harms. This bold, decisive action to protect children at a critical moment in their development sends a strong signal that a child's mind is not a commodity to be exploited. It buys young people valuable time back in their childhood, but it doesn't fix the fundamental issue we are still faced with social media platforms. We hope this ban is only the start of a reckoning between society and the tech companies that built these platforms with growth as their first principle instead of safety. American innovation has been at the forefront of bringing change for good in the world. We hope for a course correction to get back to that place with these technologies involved in our every waking moment. And obviously the irony there, ladies, is that it's Meghan herself who has been exploiting her children on social media of late.
Well, not only has she been exploiting her children, I mean, I was informed that a few weeks ago, or a week or two ago, I don't even remember when, quite frankly now, but it was quite recently, Meghan's followers were trying to destroy me on the internet. People who, incidentally, Meghan has employed. So, I mean, but there are the statement raises a few questions. The first question it raises, in my mind, is just who and what are Meghan and Harry, which entitles them to make the statement that they have made. Where is their political justification? Have they been elected by anybody? Are they representing anybody except themselves and their grifting operations, including that joke of an organization called Archewell? So think about it. Would Prince Carl Philip of Sweden be doing something like this? Would the Crown Prince of Norway? Would the Duke of Edinburgh, our present Duke of Edinburgh, or the previous one? This is something that is done at state level or political level. Harry and Meghan have no status within the state, and they have no locus politically. They are empty vessels puffing up themselves and interfering in our civil liberties. That's the first thing that springs to
100%.
mind.
And Lady C, can I just interrupt, because you spoke about what is effectively the biggest gang of internet trolls in history, the Sussex Squad, but specifically these attacks against you of late, which have stepped up a gear, and it's because they obviously know you're a threat because you're broadcasting the truth and you're broadcasting the truth to millions. But there's a particular little weasel. And what's so significant about this man is that he actually has direct communication with Meghan herself, who apparently looks at all of his posts and stories, which is something that he boasts about online. And he has of late been going on the attack against you. Obviously, I'll let you respond off the back, but let's watch what he said.
Let's talk about the corpse formerly known as Lady Colin Campbell, who speaks about Meghan and Harry with a level of rage that sounds like it's been fermenting since the 1800s. Every time she opens her mouth, you can practically hear the cobwebs shaking off her opinions. She was born Georgia Ariana Ziadi in Jamaica. Not British aristocracy, not palace-raised royalty, not a woman molded in the halls of Windsor. She grew up in a strict, old-world merchant family, then hauled herself to London chasing social status that never embraced her. That rejection grew roots in her personality. It sculpted the bitterness she weaponizes today. Bitter rot that she weaponizes against Meghan and Harry.
And, I mean, Lady C, that's one of their allies. A big old troll.
First of all, is it a human being?
Apparently.
No, really, is it a human being?
Apparently it is. Apparently it's a real bloke. But I know these can be AI creations these days, can't they? I mean, I've got no idea, but apparently
it doesn't quite look human. That's the first thing.
It's probably Meghan typing the script.
Well, actually, I thought it was very funny. I've got to tell you. I thought it was extremely funny, wildly inaccurate and just stupid. And why I would be at all upset at Meghan's success when I have gone out of my way to aim for her success. And in fact, she's the one who had sabotaged it, is quite beyond me. These people, Dan, are of absolutely no significance, you know. They are like Obia women and Pocomania men in the West Indies. If you believe in their power, they have power over you. See them for what they are. Please turn it off. I can't stand looking at him. He's so grotesque looking as well. I mean, maybe Meghan could do him a favor and send him to her plastic surgeon. Because, I mean, are you sure it really is a human being? Because I'm not sure it is, actually.
No, I'm not sure. And you never know these days. Look, Lady C, there's been big news about Prince Harry potentially moving back to the United Kingdom after the security review. I know you've got a lot to reveal on this, so we're going to do it imminently.
Prince Andrew and his former wife, Sarah Ferguson, are expected to make a rare appearance inside a royal residence to attend the christening of their granddaughter, Athena. The ceremony, scheduled for Friday at the Chapel Royal in St. James's Palace, will mark the first time the pair have entered a royal palace since Andrew was stripped of his titles. Their daughter, Princess Beatrice, who is in her late 30s, and her husband, Edoardo Mapelli-Mozzi, who is in his early 40s, are preparing for the christening amid what sources described as emotional tension surrounding Andrew's presence. Some within royal circles reportedly expressed discomfort at the idea of seeing him at the event, given the controversies that have overshadowed him in recent years. One insider noted that Princess Beatrice felt it necessary to invite her father, despite a strained relationship, because she was concerned about his well-being and believed it would be unkind to exclude him from a key moment involving his grandchild. Those close to the family suggested that discussions with King Charles were required to manage the situation with sensitivity. A separate investigation revealed that Andrew had saved a substantial sum over the 14 years his daughters lived in a St. James's apartment. The report stated that he had been paying a symbolic rent of around £1,600 per month for a 4-bedroom property in an area where similar accommodations could cost around £20,000 per month. The difference meant he may have saved more than £3 million over that period. This development arrives shortly after Andrew was formally stripped of his final remaining royal honours. King Charles reportedly ordered the removal of his membership in the Order of the Garter, widely considered the most prestigious chivalric order in the country, and instructed that his Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order be cancelled. As a result, Andrew now retains only a single honorary title, Vice Admiral in the Royal Navy. Government officials have stated they intend to remove that title as well, though the final authority for doing so rests with the government rather than the monarch. Andrew had previously lost his title as Duke of York and the style of prince, and he agreed to leave Royal Lodge, the 31-bedroom residence he has occupied for decades. However, reports suggest his eviction may not occur until February, partly because he is struggling to relocate to a smaller home. He had been expecting financial compensation for vacating the property before the end of his 75-year lease, reportedly up to £488,000, but that payment may now be withdrawn. Crown Estate investigators concluded that the property had fallen into a dilapidated state, undermining his claim. As a result, Andrew is said to be preparing to move to accommodation on the Sandringham estate, while Sarah Ferguson is making separate arrangements. Much of Andrew's downfall has stemmed from his association with the late Jeffrey Epstein and allegations brought by Virginia Giuffre, who died earlier this year. Giuffre had long claimed that Epstein trafficked her and forced her into sexual encounters with Andrew on multiple occasions.